So I'm here to talk about the daily field report. So this all came about, when contractors and inspectors, don't quite agree on numbers. At the end of the project, it's a pain to go back on the audit, and how do you do that? So this is our attempt to resolve some of the issues that we have during projects. As you've heard Steve and Ryan and Shane and everybody talk this morning about good communication. So we feel that the McDowell Commission, people to blame, are listed here. So we thought getting this daily field report together would help eliminate that. So I'm going to go through the steps of creating this report. So why we did it? So we want to have consistency across the state. No matter which district you're in, biggest complaint we heard from certified plant inspectors is, well, they gave it to me this way over here, so we're trying to communicate and get everything, all the data, the same data. So he gets it in various ways: emails, phone calls, text, late night, bar napkins, get some good stuff going on. This ensures that the CPI is getting all the correct information. As you heard Steve say earlier about mat temperatures, you'll see here later on, all the data is going to be there. So you don't forget, you're not giving the CPI 4 or 5 different emails. Timely reporting, a lot fewer errors. How many plant report revisions do we see throughout the whole construction season, right? So when you do a revision, you're already 2-3 days down the line. So how many, we just want to clean up that process. Because to me, the couple of biggest things here is the accuracy of the pay items, right? I mean, we want to get you paid what you deserve, and you want to get paid what you deserve. That's really the end goal here. So we want to have, the goal is less plant reports. So when are we going to start this? The 2019 construction season. So if it was nice enough out, today, tomorrow, we could start this tomorrow. But so what? Mid-April sometime we might start it. Maybe. So who's going to do this report? Iowa DOT, county, city, consultants, basically the inspection staff. So this is something that the inspection staff is going to hand over to the certified plant inspector. I know we all love change, right? So Shane said it best, got to adapt. Technology is ever advancing, and we're just refining our communication skills. So this is where you're going to be able to go out and get the report. So we actually added it into the construction manual, chapter 8.02. You can go in there and it just gives a brief explanation of it, but you'll go out to the website, HMA website. It's not out there yet. I'm hoping it'll be out there next week, actually, so you guys can start looking at it, working with it. So if you've ever been out to the same spot you go out to get to your random core locator, your plant report, the shades program, it's going to be in the same area. So the goal here was to try to make it as painless as possible, because we all, like I said, don't like change. So it's the same DFR, same Excel file, I should say, with 48 tabs. So we got an input tab, we got an email addresses tab, we got the random core locator now inserted into this program, so you don't have to go out, get your random core locator. You're going to give them station offsets, you're going to give them mat temperatures, you're going to give all the information. We brought it all into here. So in the DFR, there's 48 tabs, one for each days of production. So one Excel file for the entire project. And you're going to see in a little bit to where we actually piece out some of this DFR to make it a little more user-friendly. So the input tab. Great thing about this, you do this at the very beginning of the project and you forget about it. Like this, this time of year is perfect time of year to do this kind of stuff. You've got your plans, you've got your contract. You can just go in there and fill this out. So these are the things you're going to need on the input tab. So you're going to need your bid items. It's a pick list, right? It's a simple pick list. It's a drop down and it has every bid item that the Iowa DOT has. So for some counties and cities, you might not have every bid item that you guys, may use. So we'll have to talk about that. Bid item plan quantities, it's on your contract, you simply type it in. Your plan thicknesses, your contract mix price, and then basically the residency you're working in. So I'm from Davenport, so simple Davenport, Sioux City, Grimes, contract ID, and then the best thing I think is the project totals. So as you go along, every day you're entering all this information, you go back to this input tab. I'll just go to it here. So right over here, you're going to have your total for each bid item as you go along through the entire project, right? So that's great to have all in one spot. So just to go through it, I kind of told you on text-wise, but so here's your bid items. These are a drop-down list, and here's what the drop-down looks like. You simply just click on this over here, and it drops down every bid item we have. So your CPIs, you know what this looks like because this is basically in your plant report. So the bid item plan quantity, the thickness, contract mix price, the binder price, and if it's a white column, it's automatically calculated for you, so you don't have to do anything for it. You simply just tell it, hey, this is a bid item of this, it automatically knows that's a tons bid item just by the 11-digit item code. Let's see, so down here, this kind of got in the way. This is the project number, so you type in the project number, because you might have the same bid item with two projects, right? So you got one contract with two project numbers on it. So now you select one bid item, you'll have the exact same bid item, but down here you'll be able to separate it out by the project number. And then you'll type in the mix design number, and then again, the white, that's where it'll calculate. So at the end of the day, you can go click this calculate totals button, it'll bring all your information forward. Does that bring it from the tank stick sheet? Yes. He asked if that brought it from the tank sheet, and it does, so I'll get to that. But this is the input tab, pick list. I just here wanted to show you guys what a pick list looked like. So you'll see that throughout this whole DFR. We try to make it very easy so you don't have to type everything in again. You simply just drop it from a drop-down list, right? Just a simple pick list. So here's all your bid items. Here's all your different residencies. You type in your contract ID, and you're good to go. So a little tip about this program. There's going to be a red triangle in the corner of a cell. And that's going to give you some information about what should actually go in that cell. So if I back up here, see all these little red triangles right here? You guys can see that all the way over there. So these red triangles, you just hover your mouse over it, it's going to tell you what should go in that. It's kind of a helpful guide for you. And that's spread throughout this whole DFR. Email addresses. So this report, or this Excel file, will automatically be able to email everybody that's on this email address list. So at the beginning of the project, you get your CPI, if you have a couple CPIs, your project manager, project foreman, a couple inspectors, plant monitor, the RCE, if he so chooses so. And definitely, this is for demonstration purposes, do not include me on all DFRs. So, yeah. So over here on the right-hand corner, let's say if you have a preliminary report you want to send out, you can just simply put an X in all these columns except for one, and it'll email the report to just that one person. Come back in here, take out the X's, and you send it to everybody. So you can send it, randomly throughout the day if you wanted to, or so on and so on. I think it's a nice feature, because maybe you just want to communicate with the CPI real quick on something you're seeing or another inspector that you're seeing. Hey, this is what I got for the day. Do you agree with it? Again, communication, is huge through this whole process. I think this morning they did a great job on explaining good communication between agency and contractor and, you know, anybody else that's involved with the project. So like I said, the random core locator. So this is now embedded into this Excel file. So it's the same report, nothing has changed. We didn't change any of the functionality of this report. We literally just took the random core locator and made it a tab in here. The addition we did, though, was up here, you type the laydown date, you calculate it, and you assign it to a DFR. So, and we call it the DFR because you know how we love acronyms in the state. You know, everything we do has an acronym. So by doing that date in there, it'll assign it to the DFR. When you send it to the certified plant inspector, he'll have all the core locations already for you. So you don't, that's another piece that you don't have to separately send. All one piece of information. So, overwhelming? This is what it actually looks like. This is the daily field report, the DFR. This is the main guts. So that's tab number one. That's day number one production. It looks like a lot, but you know, once you go through it, it's really, it flows well. Of course, I think so, but so we actually did this, used this like Dean said. Dean used it over in Sioux City. My office used it in Davenport, and then the Cedar Rapids office used it a little bit last year. You know, and at first, when somebody sees it, they think, oh my goodness, that is way too, I've never had to do that stuff before, ever. Well, if you start looking at this stuff, you've always done it, just in different ways, right? You've always sent this information, just maybe in a different format, or a different, you know, like I said, text message, phone call, whatever. You've always sent this information. And to have a successful project, you need to send this information to the certified plant inspector. Because if he doesn't get this information, then here comes a plant report revision, right? Because maybe you forgot something, or the CPI just simply fat-fingered a number, right? Maybe he typed in the wrong quantity. So this is what it looks like. So I'm going to step through this whole DFR step by step here, so you can see what it's all about. So the first section is what we call the placement record. So we tried to actually make this look like the plant report somewhat. And so some of the terminology is exactly what the plant report has. So this is the part of the placement record. So in this placement record, up here at the top left-hand corner, you have the ability to choose if it's mile marker or station. So if you leave it blank, it's station. If you put an X in there, it'll calculate the mile markers. So if you got a patching project or something small like that, it's typically a mile marker. We can handle that. So you just simply put in your station, and just a heads up, 1934 plus sign 50, because if you don't type the plus sign, it won't allow you to enter anything. So that's the from station to station. So this lane here is actually a pick list, right? So you don't have to type all this in, don't have to worry about remembering it. It's literally, is it the northbound, eastbound passing lane? Is it northbound, eastbound driving lane? Is it the southbound, westbound driving lane, southbound, westbound passing lane? Is it a turn lane? Is it? So you have a pick list to choose from of what you laid that day. And just so maybe some of you didn't know, but that's what the plant report had for years. So the certified plant inspector, if you didn't tell him, he had to guess what to put in this column. So we're just helping him out, letting him know that, hey, we're paving the northbound passing lane today. Pick list, simple. So over here, you got the Pwl placement width. So on this day, they paved 18 feet wide, 12 foot, main line. But then the PW deduct, they don't get the PWL for the shoulder mix. So you subtract 18 minus 6, you get 12 foot for PWL. And right here, how thick did you lay it that day? 2 inches thick. Pretty simple stuff, right? So the next section of the placement record, get over there. So this is what I call the calculation area of the placement record, because everything in white is calculated for you. Obviously, when you put in your station from, station to, you're going to get a length, right? So it automatically calculates that. Pretty easy math, but so it estimates your square yards also. So then you got to type in your thickness. Then it actually calculates your total tons that it should have taken for that area. Then you type in how many tons it actually took that day to place the mat, and it gives you your yield. So it's a yield check for the inspector right away. At the end of the day, you know exactly what it is. And then this calculated tons, very important. This 145 up here, 145 pounds cubic foot, right? We all know how much asphalt weighs so in my area, that's usually about 155. So what I suggest is you talk with your certified plant inspector, hey, what are we running? What are we close to? So that might be 147, it might be 149 that day. You know, to get an accurate yield, you got to have your accurate pounds cubic foot. So again, just communicating with your certified plant inspector to figure that out. And then the green here over here, so this bottom one here, so they laid a 6-foot shoulder, but it had radiuses in it, intersections, right? Well, obviously the calculated square yards, or the pay estimated square yards is 76 square yards. Well, maybe it wasn't that, right? So you typed in what it actually was. And that's what they're actually going to get paid for the day, is 50.5 square yards, right? So if you did, so I guess another thing where you look at it is you're doing just shoulder, you have a 6-inch shoulder. First day, you pave the first 2 inches or the first 3 inches. You don't pay the entire shoulder, so maybe you pay a third of that shoulder. So that's where you would overwrite this square yards. It might be 1,000 square yards, but you only want to pay 350 square yards. Right? Then the next day, this will say the exact same thing because it's the exact same location. You pay another 350 yards, so on and so on. So the next section in the placement record is the bid item project number and mix design number. Again, we type this already into the input tab. So all you simply do is select, hey, I'm on this project number with this mix today, and this is the mix design number I'm using for that day. Just a simple drop-down list. It all pulls over from the input tab. So if your input tab is correct, this will be correct. So now I move down to the middle section of the DFR. This is the tank sheet. So this is the distribution of the day's quantities. So again, the bid item order of placement, drop-down list. Simple pick it, drop-down. And that, you only get to see what you put in the input tab. So if you have one pay item in the input tab, you're only going to see one pay item here. Today's placement, drop-down list. Intermediate, surface, shoulder, so on, so on. So you get, I don't remember how many there is, 10 to 15 selections that you get to pick from. So you just pick the best one that applies. So the next part of the DFR is the calculations. So this is all pulls over. As soon as you select this bid item here, it pulls all this white information over. So it automatically brings over your stuff that you've already put in your input tab. It's just making the report. So this is the next section of the tank sheet. Project number again, just select it. Tons is automatically filled in for you. Then the most important thing of the day, mix on road, how much waste. And I mean, pretty simple math here again, but it automatically calculates what you're paying for that day. So they only had 2 tons of waste, so we're paying 1531.71 ton for that day. Hot box samples. So you go out, you get the hot box sample, there's information that goes with that. Station location, How many tons were you at when you took that sample? What was the time when you took that sample? Shane's survey 1, 2, 3 barcode ID. Yes, I'm calling it yours. The compaction temperature when you took that sample. They need all this information. It's all right here. Mat temperatures. You heard Steve this morning say that, he got a call from CPI one day, forgot the mat temperatures. Here it is, it's all in one location now. So hopefully that communication issue is not an issue. And then, air temperature, all that is still the responsibility of the CPI. So now we need to figure out, did we waive the cores for the day? Do we need a small quantity statement? If you got the cores waived, obviously it's up to each engineer whether he wants to waive the cores that day or not. If you're paving shoulder, you paved 10 days in a row, first 3 days you cored, maybe he allows you with a proper rolling pattern to waive the cores, for example. Maybe it's detour pavement, crossovers. You want to waive the cores, you can do so. Of course, up to the engineer. Small quantity statement, did you just do irregular areas for the day by spec? That you don't have to do all the testing that you do on normal. So you just type in here, or actually these are just drop-down lists, yes or no. Is it a small quantity statement? Sure. Plant report comments. So if you selected small cores, or waive the, sorry, I got my two verbs there. If you so chose that you wanted the small quantity statement, it doesn't show up here. It'll show up on the plant report when you do that. Just remember though, when you do choose that, there's only so many characters on the plant report to type. So once you put the small quantity statement in, it takes up a lot of characters. So this is a good field that, if you got something you want to relay to the CPI that you want to have put on the plant report, this is where you would put it. A lot of plants like to put in here their commercial mix waste. So we won't be doing that as the inspectors, but the CPIs will. So the next field is so we created just a notes field. So this is just information to pass back and forth. This does not go on the plant report anywhere at all. This is just simple information for the plant report, or for the CPI, I mean. So here's what it would look like. So once you assign that random core locator to this DFR, this is all it is. It's a text field. That way, in the end, the plant report has all this information. And it's hidden all the way at the bottom of the DFR. So the best part, I think, is sending the DFR. So we got an email report button at the top right-hand corner. So when you click this email report button, remember all the email addresses we put in the email address tab. By clicking that, it will automatically open up your Outlook or email provider, have all your email addresses in there, and it actually separates day number 1 from the rest of the report and sends only day number 1. So it takes that Excel file, separates out day number 1. So that way the CPI, that's all he sees. Then there's also a function to save the report separately. So if you want to save it for yourself, you click on the Save Report Separately, it'll pull out day number 1, and you can email that to somebody if you want separately, or just hold it for your own records. So that way maybe, God forbid, your computer crashes and you've got this somewhere else, maybe you can reproduce everything. So this is what it's going to look like when you hit that email report button. Like I said, it's actually, the report will be the body of the email. It's not very print friendly, so if you try to print it, it'll look all weird. But you have the Excel file right here attached. And again, that's just day number 1. Doesn't have the input tab, doesn't have the email address tab, doesn't have the other 47 DFRs. Here's what the Excel file looks like opened up. Looks just like the DFR, except for, see at the bottom, just 1 tab. So now the CPI can take this report, put it on his C drive or wherever he chooses. I think you guys are going to go over this a little bit. So, spoiler alert, all the CPI gets to do is click import in his plant report, and all that information sucked right into it. So now the CPIs don't have to retype anything. It's already going to be filled out for you. So there's a new, I mean, imagine that, a new asphalt plant report version out there, but there will be a new asphalt plant report version to go with this. All right, I'm going to dare this. My next slide is kind of scary.
Yeah, so I guess my question would be, I see on the placement record, we can do the feet off to the side for the shoulder. So you get in a regular area, like a gore area that you do with mainline?
Yep.
Historically, I've just calculated the area, back-figured the tons, and took it out.
Yep.
Is there a way to take tons off, or would I just need to work it out to be square yards to remove from that area? Because I know I could do it on the tank stick by just typing it into pounds to deduct from PWL.
Yep. So basically you just want to, you're only going to pay for so many tons in a day?
Well, say if I wanted to just not pay for so many tons that maybe I calculated off in a regular area.
Okay.
I mean, I suppose you could just figure that into square yards, however, but
Yep.
I know on the plant report I could go onto the tank stick. As long as I put it in pounds, I could deduct that from PWL. So I guess I was wondering, is there a way that I could just take tons off of PWL, or if I should just figure that into square yards, probably a separate line, station to station, I would imagine,
Yep.
and deduct all of it? Would that be the way that you'd handle that?
I would think so. I mean, we do have Denny Lord here, who is a Hall of Famer, so he could probably answer that question for us. I had to throw that in one time, Denny. Well, see, we don't have a summary sheet, so.
It's not in that program anymore?
Well, it is in the plant report.
Can't you override it, just put it in there?
Yeah, you can do a manual entry.
Just a manual
Yeah.
entry on the summary sheet.
Okay. That is a tab, which is make another line, that is no tab. And
So
within
that-
your summary sheet that will show, you can, under that bid item, you can put whatever you want. Okay.
So I guess if you had something, odd like that, we have the notes section. You could type a note in there, that way your CPI, obviously communicating with your CPI to get it that way. Because, yeah. Any other questions?
Are the core locations editable after you generate them?
No.
So if I generate it, start marking them out, realize one of them is within a structure.
So yeah, so it's just like, it's the exact same as what the random core locator used to be. So if you don't like it, you can just keep calculating. Because your start and stop don't change, right? So you can just simply just hit calculate to get you away from an area, an intersection or something like that you want. Because obviously you can see it changing down here.
But those first ones I marked out would still be in the report
In
that I
the-
sent
in
to
the
the
original
DFR?
report, correct.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, I see. So you want to be able to change that. So yes, you can edit it. Any other questions? Oh, one other thing too that I forgot is you'll notice the red boxes here. So if you have a red box, usually means you're missing something. So if I go up in here, if there's a red box, there's something missing. It needs that information for it to actually work. So obviously on the mat temperatures, you know, if you didn't pave at 7 o'clock, you don't want a mat temperature, but it's just telling you, hey, that's the next field we need. Sorry, go ahead.
You're doing 2 different bid items in one day. Do they have to make out 2 separate?
Nope, you can select 2 of them. You can select the same one twice.
Okay, so when we get that, and we've got 2 different plant reports for that day because we've got some patching and some surface mix, that thing knows where to put the information on our plant report?
No, if you're filling out 2 plant reports, you need 2 DFRs.
You will need 2 different,
Yep.
okay. Does that make
Correct.
sense?
So you are correct. So if you had 2 different mix designs for that day, you're saying?
2 different bid items even. They have to,
Correct.
you have to have 2 different reports, it'll go in 2 different charts.
That's interesting, because we don't do 2 different reports just for 2 different bid items.
Sure we do. Yeah, we do. I mean, I think we do.
Mike, what do you think? 2 different bid items, same bid item.
I would say if you're using
Hold
the
on.
same mix with different bid items,
Yeah. Hold it really close.
So if you're using one mix, say we're using a ST base mix, or in this case, we'll say VT intermediate, okay? So we're laying in VT intermediate, and your contractor, or whoever's laying the mix, is gonna use some of that VT intermediate as shoulder mix, 1 DFR. Because we can separate that not only on the DFR, but we can separate it on the plant report. Now, if you're using 2 separate mixes, now you're 2 DFRs.
Correct.
Because you'll have 2 sets of cores, you'll have different stationing possibly, you'll have a lot of different duplicated stuff that is not, it's not gonna be the same, but you're gonna have multiple items.
oh, yeah, I guess.
Oh, yeah, so if you have a mix change, do you just add in line then for that item and just put a different mix?
That or
number?
you can just go in the input tab and change the mix design number.
Oh, you change it, but say you use that one and then you've switched it. Would you just add another line under that same pay item and?
You could,
Okay.
but problem with doing that is it'll screw up your totals over here. So if you just change the mix design number here, because it's really just passing the information to the plant report. So you just change the mix, you just type in a new mix design number for that item.
So if it's on like DFR 1 and 2,
Yep.
then you changed it.
You just
and then
change it
3
here.
and 4 would be the new one.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, because as soon as you change it here at the input tab, when you go to select it on, say, number 3, it's only going to have what you have on the input tab. So as soon as you change on the input tab, it'll be there for the selection.
So I just want to talk a little more to what the question was with the 2 different bid items. So I think when we're saying this, the DFR is going to the one spreadsheet that's dealing with that mix design. In that one spreadsheet, you can have, there's that where you can have the drop downs for different bid items. So the DFR needs to be developed for that one mix, and then you've got the different bid items that spreadsheet will be able to create different plant reports for that mix.
So I'll just go through here and kind of show you, I got 10 minutes left here, so I just thought I'd run through it real quick, what it looks like live. So again, this is your input tab, and like I was talking, so these are just simple drop downs. Several pay items. Every pay item that IWDOT has for HMA. So you just simply select one, come over here, type in your bid items, your thickness, your price, your binder price if it's so appropriate. Automatically figures it's a square yard item by the item number I chose. Type in your project number. Type in your mix design number. your email addresses. You can have up to 100 email addresses. I'm guessing if you're sending it to 100 people, 99 of them hate you. Yeah. And it's, again, simple typing an X in if you don't want to send it to that person. Take them out if you do. Random core locator. It's the same random core locator as before. So by signing the laydown date, then when you go to your DFR and you assign the date here, it'll automatically assign the random core locator to it. Or the random core, sorry. So in the DFR itself, I didn't mention the date, but obviously date's very important. Item numbers, you could have several different item numbers you're working with. Simply type in your stations. Drop-down list, again, pre-selected for you. All kinds of good information, crossovers, guardrails, intersections, loops, ramps. If you're a CPI, you're very familiar with this. How wide you pave, how much PWL are you going to take out, plan thickness, figures your tons. Come up here and you can change it. Your pounds cubic foot changes a lot. So I changed what, 10 pounds cubic foot? And we went from 99% yield to 93% yield. So it definitely does affect it. That is very important that you get that correct. How many tons were actually placed? It's a good day. So again, you can automatically come in here. Well, this version doesn't. Next version will. I've already got it fixed. Well, Scott Schramm has it fixed. I emailed Scott. Is Scott even here? No? He wouldn't probably raise his hand if he was?
Should have put his name, Cedric, not your name on there.
You're absolutely correct. Let me go, I can change that real quick. Scott, no. So simple, by the input tab, there's my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Select it. So here's a little bit of a trick so you guys don't get frustrated with this. If there's nothing down here, there will be nothing to select up here. So you literally have to fill this in first. Drop down list. And it's a very short drop down list. So which bid item on the input tab are you working with? Today's placement. Surface lane, left lane, shoulder, whatever it may be. Intermediate. Project number. There's the project number I put in. How much mix is on the road? Wasted a truck. Automatically calculates your four pay tons. Cores waived? Sure. Small quantity? Sure. Simple drop downs. Type in, I mean, that's just simple text there for the mat temperatures. Same thing with the hot box sample. So then you can send it on, or you can go back to your input tab, calculate your totals, and you can see, nice, Scott Schramm, funny, success. So you can see on the right hand side, it actually updated all those quantities. So you can do that every day. I don't know whose computer this is. Let's email a report. Goes through a function. So there it is. So if I open up the Excel file that gets it automatically attached, there it is. With all the information. It looks, I'll just say it looks daunting. Every inspector I've ever showed this to first is like, oh my goodness, why, right? Then they start using it, and then they come back to me and say, you know, that actually isn't too bad at all. So I hope that's your same experience. You know, all I ask is that you give it a chance, well, because we're going to be using it, because you're certified, yep, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, Cedric, when he completed that, and you saw that white screen with all that information on it, when the contractor gets that and sees that,
They can't change any of that. So make sure that whoever's on the road for the contracting authority is checking with the person with the contractor to agree on quantity. Because those won't be changed after the fact. They'll have to be resubmitted if they're not correct.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the CPI cannot change anything in this Excel file. So if you need something changed, and it's a good tool to keep track of what you agreed to, right? You know, because sometimes 2 months down the road, back on this Monday morning, had a very long weekend. I can't remember what happened on that Monday morning. You go back to the DFR, just select your DFR number. Hey, here's the quantities that we agreed to. It's very important to agree to quantities. You know, I think a lot of inspectors and project foremen and superintendents, you know, I like to believe they get together at the end of the day and agree on quantities. So this is just helping that. So by sending this report out to the project foreman, to the project superintendent, to the CPI, everybody has the same information. Any other questions for me? Try not to read somebody else's email here.
So I have a question about the hot box sample information that you put in there.
Sure.
If all of the information is duplicated from the 193, is there a way to eliminate one or the other?
That's a very good question. That's all I got. You know, it's a good point, though. You know, obviously, we don't like to duplicate work. So maybe that's something that the McDowell Commission can take on here and try to figure out.
So you had said all the white tabs were non-editable?
Correct.
But yet on your pounds per cubic foot, that is still a white tab, so how would someone knowingly be able to change that?
You are correct. So we'll change it to yellow.
they used to have, I think the original document that we had it up top.
Yep. Yeah, Scott moved it.
And maybe the notes down below too, since you can type in those.
Yep, okay. No, that's good feedback. It's not published yet, so we can make the changes. Yeah. That's true. I can just add a note there.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the item number?
So that's the pay item we're going to pay. It's more of an internal DOT thing because a lot of contractors don't use that, but it's our item number that we're paying off of. So in our field book system,
It's a bid item.
it's a bid item. Yep.
Got it, okay. Additional questions?
Perfect. I'll be around all week too, so if anybody's got questions,